Historic images of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi landing in Warsaw, the capital of Poland. Prime Minister Modi becomes the first Indian Prime Minister to land in the Central European country in 45 years. The last Indian Prime Minister to visit Poland was Morarji Desai in 1979. This is a two-day visit to Poland. The Prime Minister being received by Donald Tusk, the Prime Minister of Poland, who accords a very, very serious complexion to this relationship with India. Remember, India's Europe policy has opened up in a big measure over the last 20 years. Ever since the crumbling of the Soviet Union, the Prime Ministers of India across dispensations have expanded beyond the big four. The Prime Minister in Poland will be accorded a ceremonial welcome, which you'll be watching live on your screens in just a moment. These are images live from Warsaw, the capital of Poland, a country that neighbors Ukraine, a country that's been very much part of what's been happening inside Ukraine over the last couple of years. Modi will be in Poland for 2 days, after which he will be taking a train into Ukraine. The Prime Minister will be visiting 3 World War II memorials, including, very interestingly, 2 Indian war memorials, one of them of the Maharaja of Jamnagar. There are many historic ties linked to World War II between India and Poland. The use of soldiers, Indian soldiers, in many of the campaigns across Europe, where Poland takes a great deal of historic significance. India's expansion of the Europe policy, a big spotlight on Central Europe, including Poland and Ukraine, is part of this visit. The Prime Minister will be here for 2 days. Very, very symbolic. Remember, Poland may not be very high on people's minds when they think of foreign policy in Europe. Usually the big three that come to mind are Britain, France and Germany. But with this first visit in nearly half a century, the Indian Prime Minister signaling that India refuses to be a bystander in what is happening in Europe. And by coupling both Poland and a very important 7-hour stop in Ukraine on August the 23rd, the Indian Prime Minister signaling India's very, very direct interest in what is taking place in Ukraine and what is taking place in Central Europe at this point of time. Gaurav Sawant, in fact, joins me live from Kyiv, Ukraine, where the Prime Minister will be arriving a couple of days from now. But Gaurav, to you first, ceremonial welcome for the Indian Prime Minister in Warsaw. Very, very crucial, very important. Tell us what the next couple of days in Poland are going to look like, Gaurav.
Shiv, when you look at these images of Prime Minister Narendra Modi receiving a guard of honor and a ceremonial welcome in Poland, it shows the very warm relationship between India and Poland that you well know extends to the Second World War era. It was in the Second World War when Jam Sahib of Navanagar, Ranjit Singh ji, had shielded about 1,000 Polish children when they were fleeing from Nazi Germany, and as had Kolhapur, and 6,000 Polish children were given refuge in India, and that is something that Poland welcomes and respects even today. There is a society in Poland of those refugee children who celebrate, that relationship with India. So the Prime Minister will also travel to the memorial of Jam Sahib Navanagar. There are multiple schools, at least 8 to 10 schools, the Maharaja schools in Poland, and several diplomats, top political leaders and diplomats have emerged from that school. That's just one part. Science and technology, energy, agriculture, there are defense, drone technology, renewable energy. There are several areas where India and Poland intend to cooperate very, very closely, and Poland will also brief India about what's happening between Russia and Ukraine. So multilateral relationship and bilateral relationship remain very high on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's agenda. 2 days that he spends in Poland, the first Prime Minister to do so in 40 years, Shiv.
And very importantly, the Prime Minister, who will be holding talks with both the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk as well as the President later. The Prime Minister, of course, will also be addressing, just to remind all of our viewers, a Diaspora event. There are thousands of Indians who live and work as expats in Poland. The Prime Minister will be addressing an audience of a few hundred Indian expats in Poland later tonight. So we'll, of course, be bringing that to you live. The Prime Minister always making time for Indian expats and the diaspora in the different countries that he travels to. Crucial 2 days in Poland, Gaurav, but the Prime Minister will be spending less than a day in Ukraine. He's actually going to be taking a train from Poland into Ukraine, very much like you did a couple of days ago, Gaurav, for that all-important meeting with the Ukrainian president a couple of days from now. Tell us a little about what we to expect over there, Gaurav.
Shiv, that train journey, in fact, is one of the biggest nightmares when it comes to security, but that's the only way to come to Ukraine right now. There's a total airspace restrictions. There's a NOTAM in place, as you well know. So will be on a helicopter to the nearest railway station in Poland. Then he'll board a train, and it's about an 8 to 10 hour train journey, which gets him, to Kiev. In that train journey, I'm told he'll be accompanied by a number of Ukrainian officials. The conversation will begin right there, and then when the Prime Minister reaches Kiev, he will have a brief interaction with the Indian diaspora here, and then his interaction both with President Zelensky, with multiple leaders and members of parliament. He would be interacting with them, and then within 8 to 10 hours, then he heads back to Poland on the next train. So because of security reasons, the exact timings are not being disclosed because of security reasons. And we are told that at least during that time, there will be no air raid sirens or air attacks in Kiev. And this is perhaps as a mark of respect for the Indian Prime Minister from the Russian side. But this war, Shiv, as you well know, is now entering a very, very critical phase with Ukraine having launched a very audacious counterattack in Kursk and taken over 1,000 square kilometers of Russian territory. That makes this war and efforts for peace extremely difficult, if not virtually impossible at this stage.
Stay with me, Gaurav. We've got voices coming in from the Indian diaspora community in Warsaw, Poland. Let's listen into some of those voices as the Prime Minister begins day one in Poland.
We are really happy and excited because in a decade, this is first time we see our Prime Minister coming here. So, Bharat Mata ki jai!
I'm very much excited that वो यहाँ पे आ रहे हैं. For most of the people who are living for more than 30-35 years, like for them, this is a historic moment. But for us, we are privileged that after 2 years, we got this chance to meet him, to greet him, and to welcome him over here.
एक प्राउड फील हो रहा है कि इतने सालों के बाद कोई किसी ने पोलैंड की ओर देखा और यहाँ पर हम लोगों के इंडियन लोगों की आवाज सुनने के लिए आए. सो ये मोमेंट देख के बहुत प्राउड हो रहा है.
मोदी भाई આવ્યા છે, ધૂમ ધડાકા લાવ્યા છે. મોદી ભાઈ આવ્યા છે, ધૂમ ધડાકા લાવ્યા છે.
I'm really excited for him to come. I've never seen him, so this is my first time. And this is a welcome for Prime Minister, for our Prime Minister.
You have a slogan there.
Yes.
Can you say
My India, my pride.
Gaurav, very quickly, all eyes are going to be on the Prime Minister's, various discussions in Poland, but even more so, what happens in Ukraine a couple of days from now. You were also in Russia recently. How is all this being seen, Gaurav? The Prime Minister, over the span of the last few weeks, has met Zelensky, he's met Putin, and now he's meeting Zelensky again.
Shiv, you're absolutely right. Very, very precarious situation as we speak right now. The war between Russia and Ukraine has actually entered a very critical phase. While Ukrainian forces have gone inside Kursk, they've taken over a lot of territory. The Russian forces have mounted a very major counterattack on Donetsk. And in midst of it, it's the Indian peace, and there are no takers for peace on either side because Ukrainian President Zelensky says the only peace will come when Ukraine wins, and the Russian president says that there is no question of any dialogue or ceasefire till the time that the last person has been evicted from Kursk. It just shows that the Prime Minister's task couldn't be more difficult than it is at this point of time. So right now, the effort that he will be talking about is Like he said in Russia, not an era of war. When children die, it's hurt, and effort has to be found for peace. And India will play a very big role in reconstruction activities here in Ukraine. And reconstruction shift where efforts required all the way from agriculture to industry to construction to infrastructure to education. Ukraine requires a lot of manpower, and India is in a position to provide that manpower, skilled for the reconstruction of this country after 910 days of conflict, Shiv.
Gaurav, thanks very much. We will keep coming back to you. We're leaving you with these pictures. The Prime Minister has arrived in Poland. Historic trip. All the colour, all the foreign policy fervour will be right here on India Today. Back to you very shortly.
Modi!